This video is a review of the Bill of Rights scenario activity. Now, we do this in class where groups of students look at each scenario and then decide, first of all, if a right has been violated, and secondly, if there has, what right has been violated and what amendment would protect the person from this violation. Okay, so it's also a little activity as kind of an exit ticket at the end of a lesson. So either way, this is a review of that activity. So scenario 1. Sarah, an 18-year-old college student, is arrested for stealing a term paper and selling it on the internet. She appears before the judge and asks for an attorney, but the judge says if she's smart enough to be in college, she can defend herself. And she's not being charged with a felony, so the stakes are not very high. So the first question is, was a right violated? And yes, it was. And the Sixth Amendment would protect Sarah. She's being denied her right to an attorney. Scenario 2. The Joneses are being sued in a civil case because one of their trees fell on their neighbor's roof during a hurricane, and the neighbors want the Jones family to pay $850 for the repairs. Mr. Jones makes a request that a jury be present, but the judge says since the amount of repairs is so small, there will be no jury. So first of all, is a right being violated? And the answer is yes. And the Seventh Amendment would protect Mr. Jones because his right to a jury in a civil case is being violated. Scenario 3, Carolyn's arrested for shoplifting and convicted, and the judge decides to cut off her hand so she won't be able to shoplift again. So obviously rights being violated there, and that's cruel and unusual punishment. The Eighth Amendment would protect Carolyn from that punishment. In the fourth scenario, a man opens his door to find agents from the ATF at his door, and they're claiming that they're going to confiscate his rifles so he can't engage in terrorist activities or plot against the U.S. government, even though there's no evidence that he has done any of those things. There's actually a couple violations here, and the Second and Fourth Amendment would protect him. First of all, Reynolds' right to bear arms is being violated, and then secondly, the Fourth Amendment, freedom from unreasonable search and seizure, is being violated. Scenario 5, a science teacher asked the class to exchange papers to correct last night's homework. Your friend Jamie refuses to do so and is sent to the principal. The first question is there a violation? The answer is no. There actually was a case that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on, Owasso Independent School District versus Falvo, which said that peer grading of papers was not a violation of a student's right to privacy. In scenario 6, Jesse, a 14-year-old student, wears a t-shirt that has a picture of the White House and the caption, "Weapon of Massive Misinformation," in protest of the war in Iraq, and his principal tells him not to wear the shirt again, and when he does, he's suspended from school for 3 days. What right is being violated? Well, it's freedom of speech, and we're going to see in the next lesson how freedom of speech is really more freedom of expression, and it can take different forms. This is something called symbolic speech, and so the First Amendment will protect Jesse. Scenario 7, 16-year-old Ryan's captain of the football team. Before the game, he and his teammates are required to submit to a drug test. His test shows marijuana, and so he's not allowed to participate in the game and is suspended from school. First of all, has he had any rights violated? Well, the answer is no. There's actually 2 court cases to back this up. Vernonia versus Acton. The court ruled that drug testing of school athletes was constitutional, and it expanded it to extracurricular activities in the 2002 case. So basically, your rights are more limited at school, and drug testing is allowed. That is a form of a search, though. Understand that. Scenario 8. Drug dealer's arrested for suspected connections to an inner-city murder. He's not read his rights, and he immediately is interrogated without an attorney, and it continues to he admits he knows the victim of the crime. It was in the neighborhood where the murder took place. A couple rights are being violated here, and they're the rights that he would have been read in the Miranda warning. The first is the Sixth Amendment right to an attorney, and the Fifth Amendment freedom from self-incrimination. Those were both violated. Scenario 9, your parents are very religious, but you are not. Today your parents are going to a service at their place of worship, and they expect you to come along. When you refuse, they make you come anyway and ground you for the following month. So were any rights violated? The answer is no. Okay, the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution in general lists what the government can and cannot do. It doesn't interfere with parental rights such as religious guidance for their children, so no right is being violated. Scenario 10, because of the budget problems, the U.S. government's looking for ways to cut costs, so they announced that unmarried soldiers are going to be housed in the homes of American citizens who do not have kids. And this violates the Third Amendment, in which people cannot be forced to quarter soldiers. Scenario 11, because members of Congress are unhappy with student standardized test scores in many states, they passed a federal law that abolishes local school boards and requires a standardized national curriculum. Unfortunately for Congress, this violates the 10th Amendment, which deals with states' rights. The powers not delegated to the U.S. are reserved to the states respectively. So education is one of those things that falls under state power. And then finally, scenario 12, you're in the security line at the airport. The transportation safety agent requires you to take off your coat and shoes and empty your pockets before also completing a pat-down search. Is this a violation? And no, it is not. The U.S. Supreme Court hasn't ruled directly on airport searches, but the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, the Federal Appeals Court, ruled that warrantless searches are allowable as soon as the passenger places their bags on a conveyor belt for inspection, because airports are one of those special places in which your rights can be restricted for the safety of the many. So that's just a quick introduction to the Bill of Rights and some different scenarios. That's kind of the idea in this unit, being able to apply the Constitution and eventually Supreme Court precedent to specific situations to decide whether or not government actions are lawful.